There is no bigger wildcard in Jujutsu Kaisen right now than Maki Zenin. Boasting immense physical strength, durability, and speed that are only increasing with every chapter, and the unique asset of being the only current sorcerer with no cursed energy to speak of, it's no surprise that Maki's peers have started calling her a monster. With abilities like that, there's no telling what wrenches Maki might throw into the chaos of the culling game. But she hasn't always been unstoppable. Far from it, actually. So how did Maki Zenin come to be the force of nature that she is today? Beginnings. To understand Maki, you first have to understand what makes her so unique in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. And the core of those differences is heavenly restriction, a condition in which a sorcerer is born with some kind of disadvantage which they cannot overcome, but compensated with an increase in power in some other area. Maki was born with heavenly restriction as a result of being a monozygotic twin. Because Jujutsu treats monozygotic twins as a single individual, any abilities they would have had as a single person are split between them. Hence why Maki is physically gifted, while her twin sister Mai inherited a curse technique. This is the reason that, in exchange for her low cursed energy and inability to see curses without special glasses, Maki is abnormally strong. However, those handicaps made Maki no less determined to prove her skill, and she found ways to compensate for what she lacked. At the beginning of the series, she's still leaning heavily on those tactics. When we meet Maki in Jujutsu Kaisen 0, she's a skilled combatant already, but heavily reliant on cursed tools. There's an upside to that, though. She's incredibly skilled with weapons. But before we expand on that, remember to subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on so you'll never miss an upload, and give us a like to let us know you enjoy what you're seeing. We get our first good look at what Maki can do when she's paired up with transfer student Yuta Okotsu for a mission in Volume 0. As a first year, she's easily able to exercise a group of weak curses with a curse tool in a single swing. But she isn't able to do very much without it when a stronger curse isn't polite enough to let Maki grab her weapon before it swallows her. This first mission is one full of almosts. Maki is able to hold her own with a weapon, but not without it. She's able to survive being cursed while inside the curse's stomach, but isn't able to stay conscious. Compared to what she will eventually accomplish, Maki's performance in that fight leaves something to be desired. But even so, we quickly realize what a formidable opponent or ally she can be. She's skilled enough at using weapons that she takes on the role of teaching Yuta to use his signature katana, and at the beginning of his training, the special grade sorcerer doesn't stand a chance against her. However, she's still got far to go at that point. She can't do much against Shugoro Geto when he attacks the school on the night parade of 100 demons, and without Akutsu's help, it's possible she could have died of her injuries. So while Maki is strong from the very beginning, she's still pretty low on the totem pole in power compared to the Jujutsu world at large. That said, it's still worth acknowledging that Maki's prowess is noteworthy among her peers. When she takes on Miwa from the sister school in Kyoto at the second-year Goodwill event, she's shocked to find that Maki is much stronger than her twin sister Mai made her out to be, and she easily takes the fight. During that same arc, she manages to do a number on Hanami, a special grade curse, using only a curse tool. And would it really be appropriate not to remember that Maki managed to take grade 1 sorcerer Aoi Toro out with a baseball to the face? It's almost ironic that he's the one to recommend her for promotion to grade 1 at the end of the anime's first season. But hey, I guess that pitch left a mark on Toro in more ways than one. But speaking of leaving a mark, one moment that would most definitely leave one on Maki was the Shibuya event. After being called in to stay on standby but choosing to enter the battle, Maki is able to wound Dagon, another special grade curse. That's no small feat for a trainee sorcerer with no curse technique to speak of. However, she is soon to meet foes against whom she won't hold up as well against. Namely, an encounter with Jogo, the volcano-headed special grade curse, probably best known for sharing a saucy moment with Gojo in the first season, proves to be too much for her. In the course of her battle with Jogo, Maki is set on fire and very easily could have died of the burns she suffered. She's said to be in critical condition after the fact. It's only thanks to the durability that heavenly restriction gives her that Maki is able to make it out of that encounter alive. Although she holds her own impressively well for a sorcerer of her rank and the experience in Shibuya, her defeat by Jogo is a stark reminder of the strength she still has left to do. However, it won't be long before she gets a power-up of unprecedented proportions. Enlightenment. Shortly following her recovery from her injuries, Maki is gearing up to join the culling game, ready to make yet another stand against the conniving Kenjaku. To do that, she seeks to leverage Megumi's new status as a Zenin clan's leader to gain access to their warehouse and stock up on cursed tools. But by the time she arrives, she realizes that a trap lies in wait for her on her family's estate. It's there that she finds her father, Ogi Zenin, waiting to ambush her. He's already wounded Mai, and he's quickly able to subdue Maki as well, throwing them both into a training arena where the Zenins keep cursed spirits to practice on. Near death, Maki is alive but virtually defenseless against the curses, until Mai realizes that there's a way out. Because Maki and Mai are functionally one person in terms of cursed energy, their fates are bound to each other. One can only improve as much as the other wants to. And since Mai has never had Maki's desire to become stronger, she has been holding Maki back from reaching her full potential their entire lives. Realizing that she can give Maki a fighting chance, Mai spends her last moments of her life using her curse technique to create a weapon for her sister. And in giving up her life, Mai takes her cursed energy with her and the limitations that have bound Maki all her life. Following Mai's dying wish that she destroy everything, Maki immediately finishes off the curses in the training room and heads straight for her father. And the difference in Maki is unbelievable. Where previously Ogi had easily been able to beat her so badly that she nearly died, Maki is now able to kill him almost effortlessly. And she doesn't stop there. When confronted by the Hei, the Zenin clan's elite combat squad, she easily overpowers several of its members, shocking them all. Only when her cousin Naoya appears does she start to have trouble, but even that doesn't prove to be too much for the newly awakened Maki to handle. Though she initially struggles, she's soon able to keep up with his lightning-fast projection sorcery technique. She's so fast and aware of his movements that she's even able to tell him that he moves 24 times per second. And think about that. This girl was in a fight to the death, and she somehow managed to track his movements and count to 24 in the span of a single second. Clearly, her body isn't the only thing that's gotten faster. It pretty much says it all that she's able to defeat Naoya one-on-one when his father Naoya, who possesses the same technique, was leagues ahead of her skills in Shibuya. Shortly after, we see Maki participating in the culling game, and in her first major fight, who should appear but Naoya, back to haunt her in the form of a vengeful curse. Since he wasn't killed with Jujutsu, he becomes a cursed spirit, and he's pretty determined to make Maki's life just that much harder. I gotta say though, I really don't get the worm thing. Like Naoya, we all know you're obsessed with Toji, but you're never going to be his worm companion. Seriously, you're just not. I get what he was going for, but this new look of his is taking that "would you still love me if I was a worm" meme just a little too far. But even the reappearance of one of her least favorite relatives can't throw Maki off. Early on in their clash, despite his massive size and speed, she manages to slice Worm Naoya in half. That doesn't stop him from evolving into his even stronger form, but it's an impressive hit nonetheless. And even when the evolved Naoya thinks he's finally ended Maki by slamming into her at Mach 3, we see yet again that there really is no keeping her down. Maki is able to bounce back shockingly quickly from what would no doubt have been a fatal injury to someone with a less durable body. However, the fact remains that Maki is still kind of getting thrashed, and a much-needed intervention comes in the form of two new players. Daido Hagane, a swordsman, and Mio Rokojushi, a sumo wrestler. Realizing that she's overthinking the fight, Mio offers to teach Maki how to attain combat enlightenment if she agrees to take him on in a wrestling match inside his simple domain, which she does. Still frantically trying to figure out what she's missing, Maki is soundly defeated in her first match against Mio, who chides her for her lack of focus and inability to fight at her full potential. He advises a shaken Maki to let herself become captive, thus truly setting herself free. If she does so, Mio says she will have a heightened awareness of her opponent and surroundings and will be able to fight like she never has before. Taking that heightened awareness into the fight against Naoya when she defeats Mio, Maki has noticeably improved. Noriti Shikamo, who joined her in the fight against Naoya, even notes that she's completely changed. Even Naoya notices, expressing his frustration that he can no longer move quickly enough to overwhelm Maki with speed. But now that Maki is able to be truly aware of both Naoya and their environment, she can predict his next moves. She can even use her newfound ability to sense differences in air pressure and density to move around in midair. And all that from repeated sumo matches. As of the most recent chapter, Maki still hasn't exorcised her cursed cousin, and we'll have to wait to see how this fight ends. But now that we know where Maki is at, how does she stack up against the rest of the Jujutsu Kaisen universe? Squaring off. Since this is a power scaling video, I'm sure you saw this coming, but we can't very well talk about Maki's strength without speculating about how she'd do against different opponents. Given that she wipes out pretty much all of the Zenins, we have a pretty decent idea already of what kind of opponent she can take on. What we have less of a clear idea of is what her upper limit is, since the only opponent we've seen her struggle against at her current level of power is Worm Naoya. We're not sure what exactly his power is most comparable to at this point, so it's hard to make any judgments based on that alone. But we do know for sure that Maki can at the very least take out a grade 1. Human Naoya is a so-called special grade 1 sorcerer, and while the special designation is self-proclaimed, what isn't in doubt is that he was one of the most powerful grade 1 sorcerers out there. Since Maki was able to get the better of him in a one-on-one fight, I think it's pretty safe to say that she would be able to take out anyone grade 1 or below with ease at this point. That means that most of her classmates would be easy fodder for Maki at this point, with the obvious exception of Yuta Akotsu. I have no idea how her physical prowess and heightened awareness would do against his immense cursed energy, and with Maki seemingly getting stronger in every single chapter, I may be dead wrong. But if I had to guess, I would say that at this point, Yuta would probably still have the edge, or at the very least be able to do some damage before she managed to take the fight. However, there is one wild card in a class above hers who I feel like Maki might struggle against. Genji Hakari, whose curse technique can briefly make him virtually immortal. I'd throw him into the mix of people who might give Maki trouble despite having only seen him fight twice so far, because, frankly, this guy's curse technique is broken. He's able to perform a domain expansion that grants him unlimited curse energy and temporary immortality. As if that's not enough, he can bounce back from an injury just as fast as Maki can with automatic reverse curse technique. And I mean, his domain expansion has theme music. As far as curse techniques go, Hakari's is insane, and I can see Maki struggling to defeat him, even if only because, within the limits of his domain expansion, she pretty much can't hurt him. But Maki is nothing if not adaptable, so that's not a fight I feel like I should automatically call in Hakari's favor. Honestly though, there aren't that many more people who we know are stronger than grade 1. This leaves pretty much just special grade Yuki Tsukumo, who we've barely even seen, and Gojo. And that's the one fight I can confidently say Maki would lose. No matter how powerful she is, I don't think there's anything she would be able to do to counter Limitless or the Six Eyes. And yes, Toji Fushiguro almost took out Gojo as a teenager, but I don't think that has much bearing on Maki's chances. Gojo was only 16 and not yet awakened when Toji nearly beat him, so no matter how much Akutami loves his Maki-Toji parallels, I don't think that's ever going to be a possibility. It would take a serious power-up for Maki to win a fight like that. And honestly, I just don't see how it would be even feasible for her to gain that amount of power when she's already advanced so much. But the fact is that none of those fights are ever likely to happen, since all of those people are at least ostensibly Maki's allies. So if trouncing special grades isn't going to be Maki's path in life, what will be? Moving forward. So, all that said, what room might there still be for improvement? For one thing, being able to use Mai's sword to its maximum potential. We see Daido, the katana guy, use her sword much more masterfully than she ever has, and that scene seems to be hinting at something special about the katana that we don't know yet. I wouldn't be surprised given its huge personal significance. So a definite next step for Maki would be to unlock the full potential of her newest weapon. I think it would be nothing short of poetic if Maki was able to use her sister's last gift to help exorcise the one member of the Zenin clan that she didn't finish off last time. But I bet you guys have been wondering even more about another line of speculation. And that's where we're headed next. What is Maki's role in the story going to be now that the Zenin saga is essentially over? I think the key to predicting where Maki will end up by the end of Jujutsu Kaisen lies in remembering why she's different from her peers. That's hugely relevant in the current Culling game arc, because the entire setup of the game is based around cursed energy. Maki hadn't had her power-up yet when Kenjaku laid his plans for the game, so we can reasonably infer that he wasn't expecting to have to deal with a player with no cursed energy. Because of that, he probably has no measures in place to deal with such a combatant, and that's going to be huge. I mean, Kenjaku's plans are utterly meticulous, so I doubt Akutami would introduce such a huge unaccounted-for variable if he didn't intend to use Maki somehow to throw them off. And we've already begun to see how Maki's differences give her an unexpected edge. For one, she's able to move between colonies freely since she doesn't have cursed energy. So clearly, not all of the Culling Game's rules apply to her. She could act as a much-needed messenger, moving between areas to facilitate otherwise impossible communication between players. Or she could simply move throughout the colonies at will to assist her allies, since the framework of the Culling Game makes getting back up nearly impossible. There's a multitude of things she could do with that ability alone, and that's to say nothing of the fact that she's exempt from the point system because she has no curse technique to remove. And in all fairness, that might look a little short-sighted. You could argue that it's too focused on looking specifically at the Culling Game when we all know that it won't be the last story arc. But I don't see her role in the story changing all that much when the arc ends. Up until this point, Maki's arc has been almost completely defined by the Zenin clan. Her desire to escape their control and become a sorcerer in spite of their doubts, her dream of making a place for Mai to belong, and her eventual massacre of the clan's estate were all wrapped up in her will to defy her family's wishes. But the Zenins are gone now, and honestly, as soon as Worm Naoya is exorcised, her old motivations will be too. There's nothing left for Maki to fight for if all she cared about was outplaying the Zenin clan. So what is she going to do now? I think it's exactly what we've laid out already. Use her unique skill set to make Kenjaku's life harder. After all, when the cast inevitably finds some way to end the Culling Game, I doubt Kenjaku is going to put an end to his plans for world domination, and the sorcerers are going to need anybody with an advantage that they can get their hands on. And as far as wildcards go, Maki is the best they've got. That seems like her narrative significance right now, being the decisive variable, the one person with tricks up her sleeve that might be able to throw Kenjaku off his game. It seems to me like this Naoya fight is just a warm-up in which she's learning to use her new abilities to the fullest so that when it comes time for her to mess things up for the people who really matter, she'll be at her peak. But only time will tell. And honestly, Maki just keeps getting better and better. I can't wait to see what she'll become next. I'm Alexandra Macedo, and you guys are the best for tuning in.